Do you ever feel like your photos are missing something? Maybe they're sharp and well exposed, but they don't just grab people. The problem might be that they aren't telling a story. It's like a movie with stunning visuals but no plot. Looks great, but no one's emotionally invested. Well, let's change that. In the next few minutes, we'll go through 5 simple tips to improve your photo storytelling and make your pictures more engaging. And stay with me because number 5 is a bit of a game changer. Before we dive in, one simple shift that makes a huge difference is this. Add a person or a human element to your shots when you can. Even in landscapes, a tiny silhouette or a distant figure can instantly add scale, emotion and relatability to the scene. A lone hiker in a massive valley turns an okay landscape into a story about adventure and scale. Can you see how that works? Oh, and just quickly, if you want to dive deeper into photography basics, I've got an ebook for you. It's called The 3 Essential Pillars of Good Photography. Completely free when you sign up to my monthly newsletter, and that's linked for you below. Oh, and if you can stay to the end, I have a special message that might be of interest for you. Alright, let's get into it. Here are 5 tips to help turn your photos into powerful stories. Before you even pick up the camera, ask yourself, what story am I trying to tell here? Many photographers skip this step. They get caught up with settings and lighting, which are obviously very important, but they forget the why. If you don't know the story you want to tell, your photo can end up feeling random or flat. It's a bit like writing a book with no plot. Pretty pages, but no one cares. This is because when we're learning, we understandably focus on the technical stuff, and we often forget to think about the narrative. But once you've got the basics down, you'll free your mind up to think more about the story you're trying to tell. So let's break it down. Try to think like a movie director before the shoot. Every good story has a subject or main character, a setting or location, and emotion, and maybe even a bit of a plot. So it's always a good idea to jot down a few ideas before the shoot. For example, let's say you're planning to photograph a street musician. So the subject is the musician, the setting may be a busy street, the story or emotion is perhaps the contrast between their performance and the commuters rushing by. And with that plan in mind, you'll know to capture the facial expressions and maybe drag your shutter a little to get blurry passers-by in the background to show motion. You can see where we're going with this. Oh, and don't forget to put some money in the hat as a thank you for letting you take the photograph. So this next tip is about honing in on emotion. A photo that makes people feel something will always outshine a technically perfect but emotionless shot. Why? Because story equals emotion. It's in our DNA to respond to feelings. I'm sure you've seen a photo that made you smile, gasp, or even get sweaty eyes from. That's proof of the power of storytelling. In stories and photos, people or living subjects are often at the heart of it. We naturally connect with faces, expressions, and interactions. Even in non-portrait photography, including a human element can create a strong narrative and an emotional hook. For example, a lone figure walking down a deserted road can evoke feelings of solitude and adventure, whereas the same road with nobody on it might just look a little boring. So remember, people will forgive a photo that's slightly noisy or not perfectly sharp, provided it nails some kind of emotion. It's like treasuring that scribbly crayon drawing from one of your kids over a generic IKEA print. Imperfect, but full of heart. Emotion is king in storytelling, so next time you go out with your camera, ask yourself, what story am I telling here? What feeling am I trying to evoke? And work that in. Alright, on to tip number 3, composition with purpose. How you frame your shot either clarifies your story or causes confusion. A great storytelling photo deliberately uses every part of the frame. You should aim to include little details that add meaning and exclude anything that distracts from the subject or the photo in general. Think of a frame like a band. Each instrument should add to the song. And if someone's just banging away on a triangle offbeat, it's a distraction. And likewise, if something doesn't serve the story, cut it out, crop it, reframe it, or physically remove it if you can. Have you ever looked at a photo and thought, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to look at here? That happens when the composition is cluttered or the subject isn't clear. Our eyes get lost. In a story, that's like having too many side characters and no main character. It's really confusing. A clean, intentional composition guides the eye straight to the heart of the matter, the story without distraction. And here's the thought: if you have time, vary your shots. Take a wide shot for context, a medium shot to capture the subject in their environment, and a close-up for detail. That way you'll get a series of images that together tell a fuller story. You then have the option to choose the one that best tells a story, or combine them then for a mini-series, if that makes sense. So let's give some thought to lighting and colour, the unsung storytellers. Imagine taking the same photo of a person twice, once during golden sunset and once under grey stormy skies. I'm sure you'll agree they would feel like two completely different stories. A warm golden glow speaks of hope, happiness or romance, while cool dim light might feel more sombre, mysterious or dramatic. Light and colour tones set the mood, which is a huge part of any story. This is because light creates atmosphere. Our brains respond emotionally to light and colour. For example, we find golden hour magical and inviting, while greenish fluorescent light feels a bit spooky intense, like in horror movies. Ever notice that they're often bluey green and dark? That's the intentional way to tell a creepy story. Now imagine a love story film, all soft warm hues, and it's the same with photos. The lighting and colours definitely influence how anyone looking at your photo will interpret the scene. Remember, light is your best friend in setting the scene, or maybe the villain if you're going for that spooky look. So how about something that wildlife and macro photographers know all about? Patience. Storytelling photography often comes down to timing, being there at exactly the right moment and pressing the shutter when the story peaks. You may have heard of the decisive moment. It's that split second when all the elements come together to tell a perfect story within a frame. It's not easy and it takes practice. You'll need to anticipate and be patient. This is important because if you rush, you'll miss it. Great stories don't happen on cue. Think about wildlife photographers waiting for hours for the eagle to take off, or a street photographer hanging around for the exact moment two strangers share a laugh. If they packed up early, they'd have nothing. Story-worthy moments can be fleeting. A kiss, a victory cheer, a split-second reaction, and if you're not ready and willing to wait, you'll capture the before or the after, but not the moment itself. It's a bit like leaving a party 5 minutes before the cake comes out. You miss the sweetest part. Excellent, you hung around for the bonus, so here it is. Although it's absolutely fine to be influenced by the work of others, try to be original and true to your own voice. In the age of millions of images online, the stories that stand out are the ones only you can tell. Don't just copy anyone else's style, try to develop your perspective. Maybe you have a quirky sense of humour, why not let that show through in your work? Maybe you notice little details others miss, be sure to grab them. Perhaps your background or your culture gives you a unique perspective, celebrate that in your photography. This matters because authenticity shines through when you're personally connected to the story you're telling. You'll naturally put more effort into it, and that'll come across in your pictures. It also helps build your own style. Eventually, people will recognize your photos because of how you tell stories. Remember, this is not all about being perfect, it's about making it your own and enjoying the journey. We've covered a fair bit of ground today, so let's quickly recap the key points before we wrap up. The 5 big tips to tell better stories with your camera. Start with a story in mind. Plan your subject, setting, and the feeling you want to convey before you shoot. Focus on emotion. Capture people or details that bring out real feelings. Compose with purpose. Use composition to include storytelling details and cut out distractions. Everything in the frame should support your story. Light and colour set the mood. Match your lighting and colour to the story's emotion. Warm and bright versus cool and dark, for example. Be patient. Anticipate moments. Great stories can't be rushed. Take your time. Watch for that decisive moment and be ready to capture it. And don't forget our little bonus. Be yourself and tell stories your way. So your next step is to grab your camera and go practice. Maybe combine some of these tips and use light, composition and emotion in one image. And I'd love to know in the comments how you get on. I read and respond to everyone. If you found these tips helpful, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. And here's that special message I promised you. If you'd like to join a community of like-minded people, check out our Photography Foundation School. It's a free community for beginner and intermediate photographers to learn, connect, grow and gain confidence together. So if that sounds like you, the link is down there in the description. Thanks so much for watching, take care and I'll see you soon.